Welcome to the Liberating Beauty Podcast. I'm Rebecca, your host, and together we'll explore the spirit of beauty, how beauty invites new possibilities, enlivens us to inhabit our innate creativity, and connects us more deeply with ourselves and with each other. We'll have conversations and share reflections that invite you into a frequency of gentleness, truth, and mystery. I'm so glad you're here. If you find the Liberating Beauty Podcast meaningful, please consider supporting our work. To donate, follow the link in the show notes to the Together in Beauty website, home to this podcast, along with other offerings to accompany you on your journey of spiritual becoming. Please subscribe, rate, and share this podcast wherever you listen. And as always, thank you for your support and for being here with us. Welcome back, everyone, to the Liberating Beauty Podcast. I'm so glad you're here with me this week. I've been sitting with just this really beautiful feeling of what it's like when we have these moments, really ordinary ones, when we notice ourselves responding in just a different way than we had in the past, or just taking life in just a little bit differently, maybe a little bit more gently or with a bit more ease. And I thought to myself, these are the kinds of these like almost mini invisible thresholds that almost never meet the light of day, and sometimes they don't even come up into our conscious awareness that they're happening, that feels so delightful in its simplicity. And it got me thinking a lot about what are the thresholds in our lives, those that perhaps do get formal announcement and ceremony and witnessing, and then those that happen in those very ordinary days, sometimes in the middle of a Tuesday, and things get quiet, maybe at night, and you just cross a threshold that no one else can see, and yet you roll over and you go to sleep and you carry on. But there's something so gorgeous to me about saying, wait, hold on. Something small but meaningful is happening here. Let me honor that with some reverence. And maybe you're going through something like that in your life right now. And the thresholds may be a place of growth, but also something that you're practicing that lives more in the neighborhood of letting go or surrender. Maybe you're in one of those passages right now. And maybe something's ended that you can't even quite name yet. Or maybe you've been carrying something for a while. If you've been, for example, in a period of grief or loss and transition, or even a version of yourself that you notice is shifting, and you notice yourself responding in different ways, and you haven't really yet had a place to land, to integrate, to celebrate whatever is happening, however big or small or visible or invisible. And that's what this episode is for today. It is that place. It is that gentle, loving, holding place to say, wow, we see ourselves. We see ourselves moving through everyday moments and finding just a little bit more courage or a little bit more grace, or tapping into just a little bit more of that spirit of surrender and really honoring it. So we're going to talk about what it looks like to notice, to mark these invisible passages or thresholds, because I believe so much beauty lives here in this faithful tending and making this quiet or even unspoken decision to say, like, this happened, whatever this is, and it mattered. And I think especially in cultures, mine included, in the U.S. So many times, even formal rites of passage are quite thin, or they're, the ones that do exist and that are most visible or loud, or whether that's birth or graduation or marriage or death, even those can feel quite exclusionary. I'm thinking, I was talking to a friend of mine who's not been married and doesn't have children, and saying, like, where is my moment to celebrate the fact that I've just finished 20 years in a job, or there's a bit of education I've just finished, or there's something that on the surface seems really small, but I've been able to do it. I don't know how to locate myself in the traditional celebrations and ceremony and thresholds that are revered in our culture. And so if it's hard to find ourselves in those, what happens with all of these other passages that never make the headlines? I'm thinking of something as small as, I don't love driving. And, what if on a day I drove myself safely to an appointment that I was worried about, or made it through a meeting that I was nervous about? I didn't know how it was going to go, and I was somehow able to tap into more thoughtfulness or clarity. Or it could also be, the closing of a dream that you stop tending to without deciding. Maybe the decision was made on your behalf and you weren't ready for it, you weren't prepared for it. So these are these invisible passages that are no less real and no less worthy of our witnessing. And when aren't really cultural or social practices in place to honor them, the passage still happens. It just happens alone, and it's unmarked and it's unnamed. So this is really about the naming of them and what it means to tend to those passages. I want to give you an example of a passage or a threshold that I crossed the other day that really in some ways was the catalyst for this episode. I was in a meeting at work, and someone in the meeting made a comment that I remember. I felt very triggered by the comment. I noticed myself having a reaction, and what was miraculous to me was that, first of all, that I was able to notice the quality of my internal state. I didn't go so quickly into disassociation or shutdown. Like, I could watch myself pulling myself, at least energetically, out of the conversation and spinning around whatever had just been said and not being able to track the conversation. And I remembered in that state, I heard my own voice, having watched another colleague having kind of what I sensed having going through their own process of kind of shutting down earlier in the meeting. And I'd said to that colleague, no, like, we really need you here. Can I bring you back into the meeting? And I said it in a really kind way. And then I said to myself, no, Rebecca, like, we really need you here. Can I bring you back? And it was almost like energetically taking my own hand and saying, we need you here. And it was such a small thing on the surface, but to be able to bear witness to my own contraction, not to judge it, not to force it, not to bypass it, to see it, and then to just so gently take my own hand and say, no, we're bringing you back. And it was, and it was even more than that. It was, someone asked me, well, what do you think, Rebecca, about this thing we just said? And I'd been kind of checked out for 5 minutes as I was, kind of noticing my reaction to the comment. And I just said, I'm sorry, I haven't been able to take in the last few minutes, without giving a lot of explanation, without softening it, or without really needing to say that much about it, and just carried on. And I thought, wow, this feels revolutionary to me, to be able to go to a depth of feeling and frustration that in the past would have probably meant that I wouldn't been able to come back in the meeting and take anything in. And it made me think, where are all of these tiny shifts where we start noticing we're doing things with just a little bit more ease, or a little bit more grace. Because honestly, something like this example that I've just shared with you from work, though it seems relatively small, it's, I almost can't believe it. It sets a new pattern in motion. I noticed the next time that I felt triggered, I was like, "Oh, I have a way of bringing myself back home. I can take my hand, I can bring myself back into the conversation," and it just reinforces this new possibility, this new lightness, a new depth of care for myself that also extends outward. So it was absolutely beautiful, and I started asking around colleagues and friends and clients. I was saying, what are some of these very simple, kind of mundane passages or thresholds that you've noticed in your life that you've been able to handle differently? And there can be things that were like in my example, something there's a sense of overcoming. Um, but there were also examples of needing to make peace with letting go when there's no control in the situation, and just navigating that with as much grace as possible. So some of the examples that were shared with me were things like the ending of a relationship that was never official. How do you honor something that can feel like it's happened out of time? If nobody else knows about it, did it happen? Of course it happened, and yet it can be very hard to know where to get support if it's only known between the people who've inhabited that relationship. Or maybe it's a dream that you stopped tending without any ceremony or release. You just knew, like, oh, this dream, it's not possible right now. That was another one that was shared. A woman shared with me, this, I can really connect with this, the idea of your body changing in ways that don't get celebrated. Number of women have talked with me about this, about going into perimenopause and what that means. Which so much of the conversation is the things that are hard, but what about the things that are beautiful? What about the sense of sovereignty and reconnection with our body? There's others that were shared about, letting go of a version of yourself that you outgrew, but that you still mourn. Grief of something ending that was harmful, but also the complexity of dealing with grief, even when you know something had needed to change and it did. And yeah, this one of mine about not getting tripped up by comments that in the past would have felt like wounds or sent you reeling. I heard different versions of that too, which that's huge when we're able to navigate relational complexity with just a little bit more lightness, slowing down reaction time. Absolutely huge. Um, Another example that I really loved, and this one actually I heard on a podcast. I love listening to podcasts, as you can imagine. This was with the author and artist Morgan Harper Nichols, and who's absolutely exquisite. If you haven't read her work yet, a couple of the books that I really like are All Along You Were Blooming and Peace is a Practice. There's several others. So on the interview that she was talking about, yeah, just slowing down and noticing and kind of giving ourselves grace at these most tiny moments. What she was talking about was, imagining you're going to a doctor's appointment and you're already nervous and you're in the waiting room, and first just noticing, oh, there's other people here and we're all going through this potentially, tender and awkward, nerve-wracking moment, and just honoring that, okay, we've made it. We've made it to the office. We've made it here to this waiting room. And then she said, and then there's the going back to the exam room and kind of trying to organize your body on an exam table, which is so awkward and weird, and having just grace that you've figured out how to balance on the table. I mean, this was like the level of, I don't want to say minutia, I don't want to diminish it. It's like just bringing it down to literally the second by second passages of our lives, and gratitude that we've made it 1 second at a time. Life feels so much more gentle to navigate when it's on the second to second basis, and finding the opportunity to say, thank you to my body, to myself, to my mind, to my spirit. We've made this. This was something we were worried about. This is something we were excited about. We navigated it the best we could. This is beautiful. just getting into that regular practice of noticing. So when I think then about what does it mean to honor these thresholds, the noticing of them is the biggest thing because usually we're just running through our day. We're doing this, we're doing that. We're not thinking about, oh, thank you to my body for organizing itself on a table, or, thank you for my mind for remembering to drink water. Thank you to my feet for taking me where I want to go. It's even more than gratitude, though. It's like the celebration of I've been able to do this in this moment. And I think when times are particularly challenging and particularly fraught, we get too far ahead of ourselves of what's going to happen, what's going to happen in the future, what's even going to happen tomorrow, just to bring it back to I've just done this small thing and I've done it with intentionality and as much grace as I can access. Let me celebrate that. So when I think about what celebration looks like, it's the noticing that it's happening. And for me lately, the biggest way to celebrate and honor these moment to moment thresholds are really just to take a second to breathe and to feel whatever it is I'm going to feel without going to the next thing. And some of I mean, there's different orders of magnitude, so to speak, and some of these thresholds. If it's remembering to drink a glass of water, I'm grateful in that moment. But if it's something like with that meeting where I've noticed a pattern that is ancient within my system and I've managed to reroute that patterning, it's actually really significant. And I noticed that after that meeting, I was really tired. And the way I honored that had happened was I let myself rest. I felt very, very heavy, not heavy like sadness, like heavy like, oh, there's a lot here. I want to honor the integration process. I want to honor that this something important just happened. I don't even know how to describe it yet, but it doesn't matter. I can feel it and allow myself to feel it. Like that's how I honor and celebrate these thresholds. And it's just that moment to moment. What's the most thoughtful way I can honor this, what has just happened? That's how I think of celebration. There's infinite ways to celebrate these passages, but for me lately, it's the notice that it happened, take a few breaths if I can, and if it feels necessary, rest. And when I can do some kind of movement practice, and I like walking, or sometimes for me it's yoga, I'm noticing lately for the first time ever, the movement also helps me to integrate whatever learning or whatever release is happening at the level of the body. And that's been really helpful and mysterious. It's the first time in my life where I can honestly say that when I do some kind of movement practice, I can feel that there is a different type of learning underway. I don't know what it is. I wouldn't be able to explain it exactly, but nonetheless, I'm finding that's another way to honor that something has happened rather than just kind of going on to do the next thing. So I would invite you to start noticing, where are there moments where you're noticing, I've been able to do something with a little bit more ease, or release a thought with a little bit more patience and grace. Where is that happening? So just starting at the level of noticing, giving yourself permission then to acknowledge, oh, this happened, whether or not there's validation that it happened, whether or not there's witnessing that it happened. Even if no one else is there to mark it, you've marked it. This thing has happened. This mattered. And offers just even momentary reverence for whatever it cost, even just the effort it takes to remember. Like, I want to remember to breathe before a really stressful meeting, because when I remember to breathe, I notice that I feel more grounded, I feel more open, or I just feel more alive. So reverence for the energy and the input and the commitment, and then the care and the grace extended inward. Just the same way that you would extend that to anyone else you love was in the middle of anything tender. And then finally, like the rest and the integration that I talked about. Noticing, oh, wow, depending on what threshold or passage that you've walked through, wow, sometimes it takes the body a long time to metabolize that change, even if it was one that you had been wishing for, hoping for, working toward for decades. Even the really positive ones, it takes time to metabolize the learning in the body and to take that seriously, to take that rest and integration seriously. So as we're closing today, I want to leave you with an invitation, which is to notice, what invisible threshold have you been navigating that's ready to be witnessed? And what would it mean for you to honor and witness yourself in a moment? I honor whatever passages that you are navigating in these extraordinary times, and I celebrate you on that journey. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Liberating Beauty Podcast. To learn more about the podcast, my work, and how I can support you on your journey of spiritual becoming, head over to the Together in Beauty website or email me at rebecca@together-in-beauty.com. It's an honor to accompany you on the journey. A huge thank you to our multi-talented producer and co-creative director, Mapumba Chilambo. To learn more about Mapumba's work as a producer, sound engineer, and musician, check out the show notes for a link to his website at mapumbamusic.com. And as always, many thanks to you, our listeners. None of this would be possible without the energy, encouragement, and vitality that you reflect back to us each week. Until next time, may you walk in beauty.